I do believe that it is worthy of some form of aid. If it's repaid, if it's in American arms. Again, I'm not a policy wonk, guys, on that stuff. But I do think that protecting a nation of Israel in a time of crisis is not the same as assisting Ukraine.
Let me ask you something even more specific in regard to our aid to Israel. You know, the United States has not had a budget surplus since 2001. That was literally the last time we had a budget surplus. Israel had a budget surplus in 2022. Okay, the pandemic didn't matter. They still somehow.
That's a very good argument.
Right. So
I can't disagree.
We're living in a very strange time right now where I'm starting to agree with people like Ana Kasparian more than I'm agreeing with people who are supposed to be quote unquote on my side, like Charlie Kirk. In this video, we have Charlie Kirk, Ana Kasparian, and Cenk all sitting down together to have conversations about Donald Trump versus Joe Biden. A lot of things that's happening with foreign policies and all these foreign wars that's happening, and the funding that's being thrown around from the United States to, you know, places like Ukraine and places like Ben Shapiro's favorite country over there in the Middle East. And Ana Kasparian just absolutely demolishes Charlie Kirk when it comes to these, you know, foreign policy, foreign aid stuff that's happening. Now, throughout this whole video, it's a 30-minute video, and a lot of things I agree with Charlie Kirk on a lot more than I agree with Ana Kasparian and Cenk. But on this specific situation, Ana Kasparian absolutely schooled Charlie Kirk, who was sold out to Ben Shapiro's favorite country in many ways. Let's check this out here from Ana Kasparian versus Charlie Kirk in this debate.
Do you not trust the CIA? He's like, yeah, I don't trust the CIA, which was totally true, by the way. So I don't know, like we're guessing as to the why, but we do know the what. Here's the what. Under Biden, we do have more war, and war is terrible. Under Trump, we had no war. And so the why, we'll argue forever, Cenk, but you have to at least agree on the reality that there were no new wars under Trump.
Some areas I actually agree. And this is just me speculating. You're right. No one knows for sure. But I do think that Trump's stature and also the fact that he's a bit of a wild card and you don't know whether he's going to be a rational actor did dissuade people like Putin from, I'll give you that thing, right? No, I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing, but I do have a very specific question on something Trump did that could have led to a disastrous war. Luckily it didn't. But the Iran nuclear deal, right? The Iran nuclear deal.
If you enjoy content like this, then make sure you leave a like and subscribe to the channel. It really does help me out a ton. Let's get back to the video.
Prevented Iran from developing nuclear weapons. And it had a way of ensuring, like, it wasn't just between the United States and Iran. There were other countries in the international community who signed onto that deal, and Iran allowed for members of that community to go in and check to make sure that they were not developing nuclear weapons. Trump took that, ripped it up. And then for a while, Iran still followed through with the deal, even though Trump ripped it up. They didn't need to. And then after a while, they're like, you know what? There's a lot of antagonism toward us. We're going to develop the nuclear weapons. And so they started enriching uranium again. Then you have the assassination of Qasem Soleimani, which, you know, that was aggressive. And that could have led to an even bigger disaster. There's already been some retaliation by Iran toward our troops as a result of that. So can you at least acknowledge that there were at least some areas where Trump was belligerent in regard to international policy?
Yes, and
I think that, I mean, I can agree. Charlie Kirk is obviously about to accept that as well. Yeah, Trump did go a little bit over the top. Sometimes he was a little bit too, you know, he pressured a little bit too much on certain areas, but what president hasn't, you know? Like if you go and look at all the presidents, and especially in recent history, but even like before we had advanced weaponry like we have now, advanced military weapons like we have now, a lot of them have committed a lot of atrocities across the world. And they're also accompanied by a lot of wars popping up around the world that America has its fingers in. With Donald Trump, yeah, he was a little bit too aggressive at times, for sure, but there wasn't a lot of wars popping up everywhere. Joe Biden's also over-aggressive in a lot of ways, if not more so than Trump, and he's just more reckless with it. And there's wars popping up everywhere that America is giving, you know, the taxpayers are paying for. The taxpayers are funding these wars. So it's like every president is going to have, you know, the negative quality of having to do bad things, you know, bad things, aggressive things. It's going to happen throughout a presidency, or else you're not going to, you know, it's America. We have to assert our dominance in certain ways to make sure that everybody knows, hey, we're still the top dog here. Like, it has to be done. But under Trump, there was less war, and under Biden, there's a whole lot more war, and that's just the facts of the situation.
The argument that his camp would make, again, I'm not a spokesperson for Trump, okay? I'm just an admirer, a friend, and an advocate, is that because of the hawkishness in certain elements, that it created peace. And it's hard to disagree with that. I'm not a fan of trying to go to war with Iran. I don't think the Iranian regime is moral or good, but I have a consistent mantra that has been developing over the last decade, and I think a lot of Americans are with me. Foreign abstractions mean far less than pressing domestic crises. And so it's just like this war with Iran is a weird, fanatical obsession with some people in my party that are here right now, like Senator Lindsey Graham.
Yep.
And it's insane and it's weird and it's destructive to our own country. And I speak about it both publicly and privately. And you know who also is sympathetic when I'm saying? JD Vance. And so that's a fact.
Well, so I want to ask you about that as well. But so you mentioned Ukraine. We've given $300 billion to Israel over all these years. You want to stop giving money to Israel?
No, I don't. I think it's not the same thing. Happy to tell you why. And
it's just so crazy. It's so insane that he just talked to Ana Kasparian and Cenk about how the issues within the United States are so much more pressing than the issues that are happening overseas. We need to stop focusing so much over there and start focusing more on what's happening at home. And then they ask about Israel, and it's like, well, all that goes out the window. We should focus on Israel. It's just nutty. It's crazy.
I've made the argument before. First of all, I will agree. It is deserving of explanation why the aid to Israel went from 14 billion to 26 billion just like magically overnight. That's like, again, I'm like super Israel, like, guys, come on. Like, you just can't just make up numbers and just start. But no, I will say this as someone who is a believer in a place for American Jewry to have a country and a state. I do believe that it is worthy of some form of aid. If it's repaid, if it's in American arms. Again, I'm not a policy wonk, guys, on that stuff. But I do think that protecting a nation of Israel in a time of crisis is not the same as assisting Ukraine.
Let me ask you something even more specific in regard to our aid to Israel. You know, the United States has not had a budget surplus since 2001. That was literally the last time we had a budget surplus. Israel had a budget surplus in 2022. Okay, the pandemic didn't matter. They still
that's a very good argument.
Right. So
I can't disagree.
That American taxpayers should fund the bombs that Israel is dropping on Gaza is ridiculous to me. But
so you mentioned JD Vance. You're an advocate for JD Vance. Tell me why you're excited about him.
He's a friend, so I'm super biased. But I mean, he's a younger person on the ticket. I think you guys can agree if Biden remains, which you don't think he will. And I want to.
By the way, Charlie Kirk has got absolutely schooled by Ana Kasparian, and Cenk asked a very important question. Whatever Charlie Kirk says, funding Ukraine in that whole situation is completely different from funding Ben Shapiro's favorite country in the Middle East. Cenk says, I don't know why, and he got let off the hook by Ana Kasparian because she started asking another question, but he doesn't know why either. You know, well, he knows why, but he will never say it. You know, he'll never be able to actually answer that question. He got let off the hook there. You know, if they would have hammered down, if they would have asked him more about the foreign aid happening in Ben Shapiro's favorite country and Ukraine, he doesn't have an answer if you go deep enough. You know, he has to expose the truth, which if you're watching this video, you probably know the truth and you can't really say it out loud. But, you know, Ana Kasparian knows, Cenk knows, and it is a weird time where I'm having to align with people like Ana Kasparian and Cenk more than people like Charlie Kirk, who are supposed to be, like I said, quote unquote, on my side of things. But most people who are on this side, they won't acknowledge that we shouldn't be funding Israel. They will not say it. They just, everywhere else, no, don't fund them, pull our money. When it comes to Ben Shapiro's favorite country, it's just a whole different story. Their tone changes completely with the snap of a finger. And it just blows my mind. But shout out to people like Ana Kasparian and Cenk because this is a very common leftist belief where, you know, it's free Palestine and F Israel and stuff like that. So there's a lot of leftists out there like Hassan and probably even Cenk, where no matter what the situation was, no matter what the facts of the situation was, he was probably going to say F Israel regardless. He was probably going to say free Palestine regardless. You know, Hassan is absolutely insane, where he's basically like a pro Hamas guy, which is obviously disgusting. But Ana Kasparian has been open to a lot of things that most leftists aren't open to. She's been calling out the woke nonsense for a while now. And she's also taken a common sense stance on this whole foreign aid situation, especially with the Middle East. So I'm agreeing with Ana Kasparian a lot more than a lot of people on my side lately. And it's a weird feeling. Let me know in the comments what you're thinking about Charlie Kirk's appearance here on the Young Turks and his little interview debate that they did. Let me know in the comments, do you agree more with Charlie Kirk or do you agree more with Ana Kasparian and Cenk? Let me know in the comments what you're thinking about this whole Charlie Kirk versus Ana Kasparian situation.